good? Today is Wednesday, the 25th of February 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. And if you remember yesterday, I shared a model. I'm going to put it on my screen now. And what happened is I received feedback because the people say, we don't understand how the model works. And I'm going to do a little refresh now. Actually, I changed it a bit because actually, if you remember yesterday, I started from the right, which is the beginning. Now I put the beginning on the top. By the way, this model, what you see here is an advisory board operating system. And you say, what I have to do with me advisory boards? I have a lot to do because this is a system, a company ecosystem. And remember, the companies don't work linearly about steps and processes. Everything happens at the same time. So on top, we discussed on Monday about how you scale. So what is a brand, your people, and your partnerships. On the right, you see how you make your finances predictable, and you do that with your partnerships, your revenues, and your assets. And today we're going to discuss what is a cost controls and resilience is related to your assets, your governance, risk, compliance, and performance. Right. So this is the model, how it works. And this is what we spoke on Monday, the top section. We spoke yesterday is the right section, which is a predictability. And today we're going to go deep into what is performance, risk, and compliance, governance, and assets, which are your systems. So these are the things that are automated. They have a workflow. They have a capacity to work without your brain power constantly doing the same thing or having this boomerang effect when you go and delegate something and then the team come back to you and say, how you do that? Because I don't quite remember. So you have standard operation systems, you have guidance, you have guardrails, you have all documented, and people can go and be trained and perform independently with the same or better capacity as you, as the original person doing this activity, or according to the frameworks, guidelines, and suggestions of the compliance requirements in your country, right? I'm very focused in the UK, but in every country you have frameworks in terms of things that you have to be compliance. I can mention health and safety, cyber security, drivers requirement when you have a fleet management. Then you have anti-money laundering, etc., etc. So you have all these legal frameworks that some companies are required by default, even if you are a sole trader, and other companies are having more and more complexities as they grow bigger. Now that I explained the model, let me go to the activity of today, which is what we spoke yesterday. Remember, it was about margin and runway, and today we are going to protect that margin and runway. So from the asset lens, today is what the bottom line, which is a systems asset. And when I say assets, is because actually this is very valuable when you are going to do rounds of investment, or you're going to talk to your investors, or to the bank, or the shareholders, or you are going to merge or acquire other companies. These are assets that makes your company stronger and better. And also in the case that you are exiting, they gives you a higher multiple in terms of valuation, because actually it's trackable, it's linear in terms of actually you know where the things are when you ask for them, and really makes a solid company that actually is not operating very well. Also, it can have predictability where they go and how they do things. So in this system, we're going to address today, as mentioned, the milestone. We work on milestones on all these things, which is today controls and resilience. Now, let's look at three problems. I'm going to address these three problems, but consider these. Even if I'm talking about publicly listed companies, your limited company also has similar challenges. And if you're a sole trader, you have similar challenges too. So it's all about evidence and controls. So having this information is applicable across any industry and any vertical, and any level of this. So if you are a micro company, a small medium enterprise, or a large enterprise, everything is applicable. So if you listen to this and have this guidance, at least you have an idea how to improve your company. So many people think, how can I do things better? This is a way to do it. Listen to this, because your company is a full ecosystem. It's not a linear thing that goes in time. Now, problem number one is the UK Corporate Governance Code 2024 applies from January 25, which is last year, and provision 29, so which becomes applicable for now, January this year, 2026. And this provision 29 requires boards to provide a declaration on the effectiveness of material internal controls. So if you cannot evidence it, you cannot govern it. That's the principle here. Now, you will say, I don't have a board. We don't have an executive. But your team, your executive team, is your board, in other words. Or if you are a sole trader, your brain is your board. So you have to have these things in mind. If you cannot evidence what you do, you cannot govern it. So in the old-fashioned school is put it on paper. That's the thing that is saying this. Problem number two, the cyber resilience is now a board-level risk management. And again, remember, if you don't have a board, you have your executive team that acts like a board, and or yourself. And this is one thing that you want to address here. You can have an advisory board, which is, regardless in each level you are, you have an advisory board that actually can work on all these things for you as an independent team. And we're going to get to that shortly. Though, the National Cybersecurity Center Board Toolkit is designed to drive essential conversations between boards and technical experts, your IT departments, because boards remain accountable for the risk posture. Now, if you don't have a board and an IT department, you have your IT guy and you are the owner or the director or the managing director or the CEO, you will have these things anyways. So it's across any organization. And problem number three is complexity is not how big we are. It is how tangled decision making becomes. And this is coming from a study from Bain and Company that reports that the least complex companies grow by 30 to 50% faster than the peer averages, meaning that actually your next competitor. So a direct signal that messy systems are a growth tax. And when I say growth tax, it means actually it's becoming more expensive because actually you have to handle more complexity when they shouldn't be, and you don't have that advantage to grow as your next peer that can grow from 30 to 50% faster than you. That is a pain. In other words, just imagine a board pack or a team of executive or yourself without a controls view is like a cockpit in an airplane with half the dials missing. Yeah, you can plane. You can go and take off and arrive to destination. But I guess the journey is not going to be easy, and landings is going to go very, very difficult because most airports now operate on instrumentation. So if you don't have your dials and controls in front of you, it's going to be like a guesswork most of the time. Now, here's the move I want you to make. Stop treating risk and controls as a separate report. Build a single integrated controls view that indicates whether the machine is safe or not. When I mention machine, is your company. When I say control views, is a comparison with the plane cockpit, all your dashboard where you have all your risk controls and how they work and how they operate. So, as an advisor of a company, what I would propose to consider in these cases. Number one, use a 3 lines model to clarify accountability. Number one, management owns the risk. You have to name the people that owns the risk. Number two, set guardrails. So where is a risk, where is not a risk? And why? And here's a very important thing that many companies don't do, and it's very important. In risk management, you have one of the things that is called not required or is not necessary to address that risk. The people name and say not necessary, but they never explain why. And this is a big problem because actually that opens A lot of questions for auditors, for investors, due diligence. Is a very, very difficult thing when you say, oh, this is not a risk, so we're going to disregard this one. You list it as part of your risk, but actually it's not something that you're going to address or give any priority. If you justify why, I can assure you that when you do your quarterly, yearly reviews of risk, you can review that one, and then your time to think why this is not a risk and why you disregard it now can become something to pay attention for, and then that slips through the cracks. And that's the reason why you just say why is not a risk, right? Okay. And number 3 is internal audit provides independence assurance, meaning actually you can control what is going on. So this is pretty much the backbone of a board's assurance story. And remember, if you don't have a board, you have your executive team or yourself. Suggestion number 2, build a top 10 material control registers linked to your real risk: cash, revenue recognition, cyber access, supplier concentration, data quality. So give each control an owner. So remember that number 1 is management owns the risk. So give an owner a test cadence and a simple pass-fail status that board can scan. So if you have, well, I don't need to explain this, but actually literally just say, if you are owner of a risk, you have, which is the controls that you have, how you test it, how often, and if it's fail or pass, and then you have the triage protocol. So who is going to be involved, when, how fast, and what they have to do, and who is the next person in the line to call if there is a risk alert, or alarm, or process here to run for. Number 3, run a quarterly complexity reset. That's what I mentioned. So you have to review your risk every now and again. So quarterly, every 6 months, a year, but you have to have this guidance, this calendar, this workflow of complexity reset. Identify processes with too many approvals, unclear responsibilities, or duplicate reporting. So then remove steps, not people. So this is a big challenge. In terms of cost cutting, etc. So they say, oh, we don't need you here, we're going to put you there. But this person, if you don't have this very well documented, and the cadence of the complexity or the resets or the checks are not there, so you are saving cost, but actually probably you are increasing your risk. So this is something to consider. Your people, your teams, your owners, your accountability owners, is not a cost-cutting exercise. It's something that you have to consider before everything else. Now, the point is not to cut decision latency, by the way. So control strengthen rather than slow the organization, right? So you have a better control. It's not a cutting decision or people, is just to have a stronger organization control. So notice what it does. Your board pack stop being a story about effort, because pretty much, if we are honest, people doesn't care much about effort nowadays, particularly investors, shareholders, or merger and acquisitions, due diligence. It becomes a system dashboard, meaning what is trackable is something actually you can understand where it's coming from, by whom, and what happened. And this is called evidence or proof. And when you have evidence and proof, this is a highly valuable position for yourself, and very defensible position too. So, and by the way, it also makes Provision 29 less scary, because you have already this system and processes there. So because you are building the evidence trail as you go, not scrambling at the time that you have an audit, a due diligence, you need to present a pitch deck, etc., etc. That's a lot to take in just a little section here in the model, but what do you gain by working with me? You gain 3 things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, a board-ready controls view, so top risk, top controls, named owners, testing cadences, and a quarterly assurance rhythm that supports Provision 29 reporting. And if you are not required in Provision 29, at least your company will start to get stronger and better in documenting things and having responsible for what is a risk or not, and justify why. In terms of differentiator, I assemble an international advisory board across audit, cyber, and operational control. So you get a specialist and deep without the hiring a full bench. So I mean, deep is actually, if you need, for example, a forensic accountant, if you're going to hire a forensic accountant for your organization, what happens is actually once the exercise of your accounts are done, you have there a very, very skilled specialist doing work of an accountant, like or a bookkeeper. That creates an environment that is very, very hard to live with. And I'm saying actually, people will start to see that you have a person there sitting in the office with a very, very high salary, very specialized, doing a job that I say, well, what is this person doing? Just shuffling papers one side or the other of the desk. And why we have to do all this work and this person is doing less and paying three or four times more? That is a very expensive exercise that companies are going through. So with an advisory board, we can rotate the teams that actually the team members that require specialists in certain areas as the company progress in the activities that they do. And so this is the risk profiles are changes as the sorry, in terms of risk, your profiles are changing. So it's a risk reduction too, because actually the profiles are changing as you need them rather than getting stuck with people. And by the way, this process of hiring these specialists is very, very expensive too. Anyway, we mentioned risk reduction. So this approach aligns also with several governance conversations with UK public guidance and internal controls expectations with the UK code timetable, reducing unknown unknowns and in the audit committee or any other kind of these cycles that you are going through. And remember this to say, well, I don't have that. There's not a problem of mine. It will become a problem when you're going into multiple of valuation, uh, pitch decks, due diligence, merger and acquisitions, or when you want to grow your company because you have the foundations are very weak. Now, one action you can take home today and is doable in 30 minutes or less. List your top 10 material controls and put a name owner next to each. If you cannot do that in 30 minutes or less, probably your answer is there. You don't have ownerships in those risks. Pretty much you have a guesswork and a scramble when something happens. Now, let's pause here for today and reconvene tomorrow. Because yesterday I mentioned margin and runway, today is systems and controls, and tomorrow I'll go further and show you how to run transformation like a governed asset, not a collection of initiatives. And here's the problem. We are going to look into the model on the left side of the model that you have on the screen, which is a performance, strategy, and brand, and which gives you the edge. What is the edge that you're going to gain here? And I give you a hint. Most of the time, the big problems when you're going into transformation and innovation is ambiguity, is the unknown. What is going to happen? Are going to take this risk, yes or no? And the reason why is because the things you have to consider three things: technology changes, social changes, and economic changes. And you have to consider all three when you're going to do the big step into the next innovation or transformation. So that will be for tomorrow. So if you are a board member or a leader in an organization, any organization, and you want a big team looking to system controls and resilience in your organization, set up a 30-minute call so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the outside in can help you and your team without stepping in your toes. So without the traditional consulting overhead and without the public theater. Excellent. So